Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Amila Okurso, the Agile Analyst. In today's video, we'll be working with a financial data set and we'll be looking how to use pivot table to summarize the data set. If you've ever stared at a massive spreadsheet of financial data set, wondering how to uncover patterns, pivot tables are your secret weapon. Here is the data set we'll be working with, but first we need to ensure that our data set is clean. For that, let's expand the column width to ensure we can see everything. Control A and click on Format, Auto Fit Column Width, just so we can see all the values in each of the cells. Next, we need to take a look at the data types and ensure the data types match the content of each of the columns. Now, a quick look at the account number data type. The account number columns draws our attention because of the red highlights. Is an error. The account number column is formatted as text. We need to ensure it is formatted as numbers. Generally, we can do that by clicking here and saying numbers. However, that did not happen. It's still formatted. It's showing number over here, but it's still formatted as text. To ensure that this column is properly formatted as a text, we'll be making use of a function value. So equal to value, and we're going to click the first cell and say enter. This converts the text to a number. Double click to copy the same function for the rest of the rows. So let's copy and right click, then we say paste values. Let's paste this and voila, that's been formatted as numbers. We can go on to delete this column as we no longer need it. Okay, so what else can we see? We need to format the date column as date, highlight the column, click and short date. That works. Before creating a pivot table, let's create a backup of our spreadsheet. To create a pivot table, click on any cell within your dataset. Control A to select the entire data range. Click on the Insert tab. Click on Pivot Table from Table Range. Then you click on Add this data to the data model and you say OK. It creates a pivot table for you, and on the right side you see the pivot table key component. Right here you have the column headers of your table, and over here you have the different fields you can drag each of these column headers to. You have the filter section. You can use this to filter the rows or the columns and the values. On the column, any of the column header you drag to the column section becomes the column of your pivot table. Anyone you drag to the row becomes the row of your pivot table. And most times the table headers you drag to the value section, a calculation will be done on them, either count, sum, average, maximum, or minimum. A calculation will definitely be done on any of the column in the value field. The first pivot table we'll be working on is to find out the total account number we have. So we're going to be dragging the account number to the value section. Now, it gave us a sum, but what we want is to count the number of account number we have on our record. We're going to click on this drop down, click on value field setting, then we select count. You can change the column name to total account number and say OK. So we have 2,000 accounts in our record. We need to add another pivot table. You can follow the same process. Click on Insert, click on Pivot Table, select the table range. Our table is in sheet 1. Click on the first cell
hold Ctrl Shift right arrow key and down arrow key to select the entire data range. Then don't forget to add to the data model. We want it to be in an existing worksheet. We say OK. For this, we want to summarize the credits. Let's say the sum of credits. And that's it. We need another pivot table for sum of debits. To do that quickly, we can easily copy this pivot table, paste, then we change credits to debits. Uncheck credits and check debits. Okay. So we can have a pivot table that checks the expenses across each department. A shortcut to create a pivot table is hold alternate NVT. Here you have to select your table range, which is sheet 1. Click on the first cell, hold down Ctrl Shift right arrow key and the down arrow key. Add it to the data model and you say OK. For this pivot table, we'll be having the department in the row field. Drag and drop. Then we have the debits in the value field. We're going to copy this, rename to departments. Let's copy this and find out the revenue across departments using the credits column. Copy, paste. Take out, just drag it out and you click on credits. So now we have this. We can sort from largest to smallest. We can also sort this section as well. Okay. We can have another pivot table that looks at the account name and the debits. Let's find out what account is spending more and which is spending less. You can go back to your sheet 1. Let's select our dataset. Select your entire dataset. Ctrl A to select. Click on Insert. Click on Pivot Table. We want it to be in an existing worksheet, so we need to go select where we want it to be. We want it to be in sheet 3, which is the pivot table. Click on the cell you want it to be, add it to the data model, and say OK. For this, we'll be selecting the account name on the row field. Then we have the debits on the value field. Okay, so we can just sort this as well. Rename to account name. We have to copy these to create another pivot table to show the credits. Let's see the accounts that are generating more credits, generating revenue for this organization. So what you have to do is uncheck, take out debits and replace that with credits. Let's make use of the shortcut to insert a pivot table. What you do is press Alt N V T. Now it selects the table range automatically because we are already on the worksheet that has the table, the data set, and we've highlighted a cell within that data range. We want it to be on an existing worksheet. For that, we're going to select the location, which is sheet 3. Choose a location for it. We've chosen the cell. Always add it to the data model and say OK. For this pivot table, we're going to be using the cost center as our row. Then we have our debit and credit, as the value. Here we have the pivot tables we've created. Remember, pivot table helps you summarize your dataset. It allows you to reorganize, group, and summarize your data from a large dataset. This will help you to quickly analyze and find patterns in your data set. Sometimes you might have your pivot table, but the pivot table field it's not showing. Make sure you're clicking somewhere in the pivot table like so. Click on pivot table analyze, then go over here and click on field list. It brings out the pivot table key components where you can select your table headers. So here are the pivot tables we've created. We can use this pivot table to create charts. The charts will be used to create a dashboard. So go ahead and create the dashboard. If you want me to do a video on how to create a dashboard using this pivot table, leave a comment and I'll do that in my next video. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, share, like, and subscribe for more contents like this.